We okay? Cool. All right, let's get started then. So hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out to the last session of Unite. It's 5 o'clock. I wasn't sure if anyone was going to be here, so thank you all for coming out to join me. I hope you're in the right session. So we're going to talk about Vivox. So I'm Dave. I'm the president of Vivox. For those that don't know, we were acquired by Unity about 3 months ago. So we are now part of Unity. And what Vivox does is to provide text and voice chat services to game developers. So we work with game developers. They take our technology, they embed it into their games, and then we deliver services behind the scenes. We operate the chat servers for our partners as well. We've been doing this for about 15 years, so we've got a very experienced team that is really highly trusted by our partners, that we become a part of their game experience and an extension of their operations team. And we're really the leader in what we do. We've got hundreds and hundreds of games that use us, and we are by far the most sort of proven solution that's out there. These are some of our partners. A couple of examples, folks like Blizzard. We were part of the Overwatch launch, and that was a pretty exciting time. We're working with Nexon now. We're part of the PUBG launch when that came out. Rainbow Six Siege, League of Legends, lots and lots of very, very large games. We'll talk about some of these as we go in a little more detail, just a couple of examples. But if anyone has questions about those games or what they've done with us, I'm happy to sort of discuss that in more detail. In addition to the sort of bigger developers and publishers, we also work with about 500 indies. So there's a lot of smaller developers that are working with us now as well. And so if you're interested in taking a look at the SDK or playing around with it later on, I'll share a link at the end of this to where you can go and get access to the technology. So why does this matter? Why do people care about chat, text chat, voice chat in games? The main reason is it makes games stickier. It makes them more engaging. And because we operate as a managed hosted service, we've got servers behind the scenes for all of our partner games, and we can see behavior with players that come and connect to those servers. And what we see very, very consistently is that players that are more social, players that engage with other players in chat, text chat or voice chat, they stick around longer. They become engaged with the game at a higher level. They convert into paying users. And so in general, it's just a way to keep people engaged with the community. It is a way to accelerate their learning in the game and a way to let them have more fun with their friends. And in the data, we see a distinct difference between non-social players and social players, between people who use chat and don't use chat. And it doesn't matter if they're a console player or a PC player or a mobile player, they all show the same pattern. A little more on what it is. It's an SDK that gets integrated into the game experience. On the back end, we're servicing hundreds of millions of users a month and hundreds of billions of minutes of chat a month. Thousands of servers sort of scattered throughout the world delivering this service. It's pretty easy to drop in and get going. So we've had developers come and say hello for the first time and then launch very large games a week later with our service embedded into it. And again, it's hosted, managed, so all you really need to worry about as a developer is taking the SDK and integrating the SDK into your game client. Everything else we take care of behind the scenes. The SDKs themselves come in a few different flavors. There is a set of core libraries that you can use really with any engine, and those libraries have been used with engines from Unity, from Blizzard, from Riot, lots and lots of custom engines over the years. In addition, we've got an Unreal plugin and a Unity plugin. So right now, the Unity plugin, you actually come to Vivox, you come to our website, and download the plugin. I'll show you that in a little bit. As we move forward, you can expect the plugin to go into the asset store, and I would expect at some point we'll get a much tighter integration into the editor and into the engine. But for now, you'll come to Vivox, you'll get the SDK and drop it into Unity. When you do come in, you'll get access to our self-service developer portal. And so this is a place where developers come. They get access to SDKs, documentation, samples. You can get access to help from there to reach out if you've got any issues. You can also see how many users are connected to your system. So some basic sort of usage metrics. And we'll go into that in a little more detail later. In terms of the service and sort of the back-end footprint, we've got lots and lots of servers in our data center in the East Coast in the US. So several thousand servers there, and lots of users come into there. But we've also got points of presence sort of across the globe. In some cases, those are going into our customers' data centers. In some cases, we're in the cloud with AWS or other cloud providers. An example of the kind of thing that we do behind the scenes, if you play Fortnite, Fortnite occasionally has very, very large events. And it's a very, very large community. And we deliver chat services for Fortnite. So when Fortnite has an event, for example, when they had their Marshmallow event a few months ago, or they have some other event going on, they can spike traffic by millions and millions and millions of players. So they'll go from, I think they have to be careful in sharing numbers. I think they publicly said that they did over 10 million concurrent users with the Marshmallow event. That's significantly higher than they'd done the weekend before. So when something like that happens, we've got to throw a lot of servers up and make servers available. So in that case, what we'll do is we'll turn on a bunch of servers in AWS for the duration of the event. After the event, we'll dial them back down and go back to our regular bare metal deployment in the data center. And the reason we do that is bare metal is considerably cheaper. Like if you're running any servers in the back end any place, generally you're going to get a much better price cost result running bare metal rather than Amazon or Google or any of the cloud services. In terms of features and what you can do with it, chat. So you can drop players, get players together, direct chat, team chat. We do 3D positional voice. That means if you're in an audio space with another player, you can hear them relative to where they are in world. That's used by folks like Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76, PUBG, and several others that want to create a really immersive experience. A newer feature, transcription services. So you can get a real-time transcription of the audio chat. So it works sort of like closed captioning in TV. So you're talking to your teammates, or your teammates are talking to you, and you get a text feed of that coming in real time. One of the things that's come out of this trip for us is, as we've talked to a couple of customers here in Korea, they've asked us if we could do translation on the back of that. So that's something that I think will be coming a little bit later this year. So if you're in a chat with someone and they say something in a different language, you can have it translated in text to your language. Again, kind of like closed captioning with a television. Example of someone using 3D positional and some of those features is PUBG. So we were part of PUBG's launch. It's been an amazing ride working with those guys on PC and on console. If you play PUBG, when you parachute into the map, you can talk to anybody around you, whether they're teammates, enemies, or whatever. You've got 3D positional chat, and you can interact with people. If you are not easily offended, you can search for funny PUBG voice chat, and there's a whole video series of how people are using chat to interact in the game. And it's very, very cool, because none of it is scenarios that the game developer or designer created. It's things that players are creating as they're interacting with each other, and it creates a really, really unique experience. PUBG you can also have a team channel. So if you don't want to interact in 3D, you don't want your enemies to overhear you, you can have a private channel for your squad as well. PUBG is also an example of scaling. So PUBG expected, they had relatively modest expectations for the number of users. And public info from them was their PCU was around 3 million users 6 months after launch. So it sort of came out of nowhere from our perspective and from the industry perspective, scaled up to 3 million concurrent users, massive, massive win for them. Massive win for us because we sort of kept up and the service just works behind the scenes. Cross-platform and multi-platform. So we deliver services to consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, PC, Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, and there's a web browser-only version of the SDK. They're having more fun. Kind of like Unity, there's an advantage in having a single SDK. You write once and then you use the service everywhere. And so the advantages are, as a developer, you've got a single API and you get the same functionality on all those platforms. As a user, you get a consistent experience as a player. So if you're developing apps for consoles, the user experience for chat on PlayStation is very different than for Xbox. And I'm not going to say which is better, but I'll just say that it's different. One of the advantages of working with us is that you get a consistent player experience on all the platforms. It's the same APIs, the same functionality. And if you're doing crossplay, if you're interested in doing crossplay, matching people up from Xbox to a Switch or a PC, we make that very, very easy. All of our platforms can interoperate. Crossplay. So an example of that is Fortnite. Fortnite, one of the things that Fortnite wants to do is they want to make it really, really easy for people to play with their friends. And one of the things that makes it hard for people to play with their friends is I need to know what platform my friend is on in a lot of cases. So if I've got an Xbox, I need to know if my friend's on an Xbox or a PC or an iPhone or whatever. So Fortnite is trying to take that away. Right? So in Fortnite, you can play with any of your friends across any of the platforms, and they support pretty much everything. Right? So you can do cross-play and have someone on a PlayStation playing with a friend on an Xbox, playing with a friend on an iPhone, and put all those together in a group, and off you go. So again, they're using us under the covers for the chat. We make that easy for them. And another example of sort of massive scale. They've blown up, obviously. Consoles. So there's already chat on consoles. Why do people use voice? Vivox on consoles. Our stuff works better. It sounds better. There's more features. And if you're doing crossplay, again, we make that easy. Rather than writing something for Xbox and something else for PlayStation and creating something for Switch, because there's nothing there, we make it easy to do that. Back-end stuff. It just works. It just works at scale. It works whether you've got 2 people or 2 million people in your community. It doesn't matter if you put 2 people into a conversation or 10,000 people into a single conversation. It uses the same bandwidth and CPU on the client. So we do a lot of things to optimize the resources that we use and to deliver really good user experience, whether you're on a mobile device on a bad network, or you're on a high-end PC, or you're on a console, or whatever. We deliver consistent user experience sort of across all of that. Rainbow Six is someone that was really interested in kind of the back end and how that worked. We came into Rainbow Six Siege well after launch. Like, the game had been in market for quite some time, and they wanted to do more with esports. In order to do esports, they had to harden some of their systems under the covers. One of the systems that they replaced was their existing chat system and their party system and some other things. If you're doing an esport, you don't want like peer-to-peer traffic going under the covers. If we've got a lot of money on the line and I can see your IP address, then I can do bad things to you and impact the outcome of the match. So they wanted to work with us, dropped us into the game, took away some of the pain there. The really interesting thing, though, was that the way the players responded. Like, the players were very, very vocal about thanking Ubisoft for finally fixing this thing that Ubisoft didn't realize was broken. So that was kind of cool. It was like they replaced us to make it more secure, and then the players were very, very happy and vocal about having a feature they could use now. A little bit on the dev front, because I think we probably have some devs in the group. Just quick walkthrough of what it looks like to work with us. We won't spend much time on this. You basically come into our developer portal, you sign up. Once you're in the developer portal, you can get access to the SDKs. Again, the Unity SDKs for all the platforms are here. If you're a Xbox or PlayStation developer, you've got to prove to us that you're an Xbox or PlayStation developer. But other than that, everything is available to you, along with the documentation and samples and everything else that you need to get up and running. Download the package, import it into Unity, and then you've got to change some configuration information. So with all of this, we're hosting servers on the back end. So when you're in the developer portal, let me go back one. Oops, I don't have that screenshot. So when you're in the developer portal, you get some ID information. You get an issuer and a key and a URL to connect to. And that separates your application from another developer's application so that we know who you're coming from. So in the sample, you come in, you change the information, put your issuer, put your key in, and run the sample. From there, you can copy-paste code to get up and running. You're dealing with things at the level of login, join channel. Once you join channel, you start getting data back. But the API is relatively high level. There's lots of stuff under the covers where you can get in and really control things at a low level if you want to, but you don't have to. You can get up and running in an hour or so and have people drop into chat and start playing around with it. If this presentation wasn't enough to teach you everything you need to know about developing with Vivox, there's a lot of documentation out there. So this will walk you through step by step by step what you have to do to get up and running with Unity. So best communication is now available to everyone. It's free to get started. In fact, if you come in as an indie, you sign up, use the services up to about 5,000 concurrent users for free, and then start paying us for capacity beyond that. A basic message is, come use the tech. Use the same tech that the biggest companies in the industry use. Go make your game successful. Once you're successful, then pay us for capacity as you grow it. So there's the URL, developer.vivox.com/register. So if you go to that URL, you can get access to the dev portal, get access to the SDKs, and start playing around. And that's it. See, that was fast. Any questions? It went fast because it's 5 o'clock and I want to have a beer.
If it's possible, voice chatting on the mobile game.
Yes.
How many people can you forward?
How many in one conversation, or?
Yes.
10,000. Big.
Is it loud?
Yes. Yes.
loud enough? Like, it's like 10,000 people.
You don't want 10,000 people talking at the same time. That's not a good user experience. But you can support that. And in fact, we've done that for games in the past. For example, many years ago, we were working with Sony Online, and they had a user conference or a player conference in Las Vegas. And so 1,500 people or so in a conference room like this that were listening to John Smedley, the president of Sony Online, speak. We took that and we piped it into all of the Sony Online games. So if you were playing at that time EverQuest or EverQuest 2 or Star Wars Galaxies or whatever, you could subscribe to that channel. By default, we muted everyone, and then they could unmute people to ask questions and interact. So there were 1,500 people here, but then there were another almost 10,000 people around the world in the games connected and participating virtually in the event. So it's the same kind of thing. We can support any size group that you want, but there are points at which socially things start to break down, and it becomes a little chaotic. In terms of the community size, like things like Fortnite, we talked about 10 million concurrent players. I mean, that's really unlimited. Anything else?
우리말로 하면 되죠. 네, 네. 배틀그라운드를 즐겨 하는데 거기에 보면 이제 코드로 방을 만든 다음에 게임 안에 들어가면 음성이 나오는데 간혹 대기실에서 맵 선택할 때 음성이 안 나오는 경우가 있거든요. 그래서 대기실하고 로딩 중간에 하고 게임하고 보이스 채널이 동일하게 사용을 안 하는 것 같은데 뭐 특별한 이유가 있는지.
He plays a battleground,
Mm-hmm.
and
PUBG?
he says that the voice channel is different with the before the game
Mhm.
and while loading the game and playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Is it right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's wondering why the voice channel is different.
That's a decision by the developer on how they want to put people together. In PUBG, they had an issue with people coming into the lobby and spamming. China #1, selling stuff and things like that. So they changed the way and the timing on when they put people on the channel to cut that down a little bit. In some cases, you might have a game that you have one group of people in the lobby where you're hanging out with a big group and some friends and things like that, and then a slightly different group when you join a match. And so you might move from one channel to another channel. You might be in both channels at the same time. It's really up to the game designer or developer to implement it. But for PUBG, it was China #1. Okay.
I think this Vivox is only chat, but any hosting server with Vivox has any crash or?
It's okay. I didn't understand though.
If you use another hosting server with the Vivox, is there a crash?
For why? Why? I'm not positive I understand the question. So can we use another server? We can put our servers in lots of different places, including in the cloud, in our partners' data centers, or whatever. But our SDK works with the Vivox server. And the Vivox server could be lots and lots of real machines. So for something like Fortnite, it's hundreds and hundreds of machines. For a small indie, it might be a single machine. but it's our software on the back end, on the front. Not sure I answered the question.
She's okay.
It's okay. All of that, and then it's okay.
So you said like all these games like Fortnite and PUBG, Heroes of Storm, they're using your system to communicate on the voice chat and all.
Yep.
So is it possible for like to talk with them while you playing different games? And if that's so, is there any like features?
Are you asking if you can play Fortnite and talk to your friend in PUBG?
Is there anything like that?
Technically, yes, but neither Epic nor PUBG want that to happen. So, no. But if you want to make lots of games, we can connect them all. It's really, you know, that community, that developer is building their community, and they don't want to connect to the other community. Anything else? Awesome. Thank you again for hanging out. I know it's late. I hope you guys had a great Unite. I know I had a good time in Seoul, so thanks very much, and I'll see you next year.